I met a traveler from an antique land who said, two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose round and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survived, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal, these words appear: my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing besides remains. From the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.
Hello everyone, how are you doing? My name is Claudio and today I want to talk about one of the most brilliant poems ever written in English language. This poem that I just read to you is called Ozymandias and was written by Percy Shelley, one of the most famous poets and writers from the Romanticism. Born in 1792, the author marked his name in the history of literature by composing works with huge impact throughout the 19th century. Besides that, his fame increased even more because of his relationship with some very famous people, such as Lord Byron and his wife Mary Shelley, author of Frankenstein and one of the most important writers in history. The works of Percy Shelley include dramas, Gothic novels, and, which is the focus here, poems. So, Ozymandias is a very interesting point of view about power, time, and the power of time itself. These aspects are noticeable from the first reading. Ozymandias, which was the way Greeks called Pharaoh Ramses II, was a figure of absolute power. During the time he was alive, he was the king of kings, considered an image of God to the people he ruled. He had such power that a statue was built to homage him. He was mighty, fact that makes him so proud he invites the reader to look around and see all the work he has done. But the poem doesn't take place in the ancient Egypt. We presume the scene happens at the same time as the writing in 1817, but this is not really important. What matters is time has passed. The poetic persona talks about this traveler from an ancient place that saw Ozymandias' statue half sunk in the sand of the desert. The poem takes several verses to describe the scene. Two stone legs arising from the desert oppressing who sees it. Next to them, the face of a statue is described as a shattered visage, something like a broken ghost, almost ethereal, but solid enough to break and collapse by the action of time. This genius lexical choice sets the tone of the poem, informing the reader of the presence of that deceased symbol of power. The face has a superb expression, looks like a commander and authoritarian leader, someone whose orders shall be obeyed. And there is, in fact, an order. The pedestal of the statues read, "Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." But what happens when we do look around and search for these works? We cannot see anything but the sand of the desert. This is certainly the most brilliant aspect of this text. The bragging of Ozymandias becomes incredibly ironic because of the action of time. He orders us to see his works when they are not there anymore. It sounds like destiny making fun of that former great leader. His own words become a mockery of his incapacity of surviving through time. But there is an aspect of Ozymandias' rule that is still obeyed. Confronting the power of time, the reader has no option but despair. If a man like Ozymandias that was saw as a god can be fully buried in sand after some centuries, what remains to us, mere readers of a 19th century poem? Ultimately, this answer is quite simple. We will have the same destiny, but probably faster. We don't have someone to make us a statue or a beautiful empire to give testimony of our greatness. We will be forgotten, left behind in the desert, where someone someday will find a small clue of evidence of our existence and maybe laugh about it. So maybe the best option is to refuse Ozymandias' order. We should look around and find beauty in our works, knowing that someday they won't be there anymore. Time can be fueled to despair, but can also motivate a life of real presence, existing before the sandstorm was left to our miserable human lives. Okay, I might have gone a little too far with my thoughts, but I can help it. This is what this poem does. And this is why it is so relevant. And I'm not the only one haunted by these ideas. I can mention, for example, the series Breaking Bad. I haven't watched it yet, but I know there is an episode with the title Ozymandias. There's also one of the greatest comic books of all time, Watchmen, that have this character called Ozymandias that have this level of ambition. This example reveals how Shelley was able to capture one of those fears that we, as humanity, have stuck in the bottom of our hearts. We will die and will be nothing remaining but tears in the rain or a statue in a desert. Capturing this raw essence of life is precisely the kind of thing a romantic poet would like to do. And Percy Shelley's Ozymandias always makes us uncomfortably conscious of the fragility of everything we are.